Welcome to Loathsome Things, a horror movie podcast that I didn't prepare an opening for until after I hit the record button. It's me, I'm Josh, that's him, he's John. Say hello, John.
Hello, John.
Hello, John. And today we are going to be talking about Woelfel's? Woelfel's Beyond Dreams Door, 1989.
It's a whole lot of stuff.
It sure is some things. But before we get into that, John, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm way over this fucking summer. The summer that marked the end of Earth. Jesus Christ, man.
Jesus, yeah. That everything's on fire, everything sucks. We were just talking that there is no such thing as cold water that comes out of the faucets anymore.
Yes, as I told you, I took a shower last night because I was overheated because of the 0 hours I spent outside. I went to work for a little while, it was hot because I had to walk outside a little bit here and there, but nothing strenuous. I literally was just strutting,
Yeah.
Listening to the Bee Gees. Hey, no, I wasn't doing that. I'm an idiot.
Oh.
But anyways, so yeah, I was at home in the evening and I was just like, I was planning on taking a shower right before I went to bed, and I just was like, man, fuck this. I need to take a shower right goddamn now. Because it was like, with the AC blazing and a fan in my face, it was 80 degrees in our apartment. And
Fuck.
I just was like, all right, fuck this. Took a shower, almost no hot water in the shower intentionally, and it was like the greatest thing in my life ever. And I'm still riding that high. How about yourself?
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm also done with this. I am the type of person that has a lawn now, and now I understand why you have to worry about a lawn, because if you don't, then it makes your foundation bad, and my lawn is fucking dying because where I live, you're not allowed to use the water.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, fuck a whole lot of lawn. I was a homeowner for a while, and I loved owning a house. I didn't love paying for it, but I didn't love all the renovations that my demonic ex-wife, got us to do, and but the lawn was my least favorite of all. Like, I was like, I don't care if I don't eat this week, I'm paying that dude to come cut the grass, because I fucking hate cutting grass. I hate it.
Yeah, I cut multiple people's lawn every week from the age of, like, I want to say 8 years old until I was in my late teens, and
Really?
I hated every day of it, and I just straight up won't anymore. Yeah, there is a very pleasant gentleman who mows my lawn for $30 every 2 weeks, and that is the best money I've ever spent in my entire goddamn life.
Oh my God. For a while I was living with this girl and we were leasing a house and we were cutting our own lawn. I don't remember why I didn't spring for some fucking guy to cut the grass or whatever, but maybe I just didn't have it at the time. But so I was cutting it, and of course I would push it to the last possible moment every time I would cut it, and then it was 10 times harder to cut because, as you know, grass here is like thatch.
Yeah.
So finally, I got like a note from the fucking neighborhood where they're like, we're going to start finding you. And I'm like, this place is a fucking dump. It's like a slum. Why do you care what my yard looks like?
Yep. I got one of those when we first moved in. Apparently, the weeds on the side of my house that I never look at had gotten too tall. And I live in a neighborhood where there is a cul-de-sac that is overrun with cats, like, to a terrifying extent. And I have a neighbor, like, on the main, like, thoroughfare of our neighborhood. There's a neighbor whose fence has just straight up collapsed in. And so you can just see their horribly overgrown backyard. I don't think they're paying any fees for HOA, but it's fine. HOAs can suck it. They're the worst.
They can eat all of my balls. I fucking hate HOAs. that's like the seat of American fascism right there. It was just born and bred and nourished, and it's like fucking out of control now, man.
Mine just upped the amount that we have to pay per year because they wanted to, and they did, they rebuilt the pool house for the community pool and then also built a giant gathering space pavilion area. Fuck both of those things. I'm never gonna dump my body into your horrible shit-infested pool, and I'm never gonna gather people under a pavilion in this horrible hellscape that we live in.
I'm never gonna bathe in your urine tank.
Jesus.
Oh man, the neighborhood that we owned a house in, the HOA for that neighborhood still has wording that bans Negroes from living there.
Oh, fantastic!
Unless they live in a servant's quarters, which is separate from the house. That shit is still in the HOA like documents, like the legal whatever the fuck they call it. It got national news for a while, and when they asked the HOA about it, they were like, it's a lot harder to change that than you think. It's a whole legal process. I'm like, no the fuck it isn't. If everybody agrees, it's easy to change. Give me that shit. So yeah, I lived in a neighborhood that doesn't allow Negroes to live there. I was like,
my God.
Are you fucking kidding me? What the hell? It was horrifying when I didn't even know the whole time I lived there, because of course I'd never read the HOA stuff.
Who fucking reads that? Yeah.
Fuck those people. Now I wish I had joined the HOA and just become a total prick and just go to every meeting and be like, nope.
No.
But, Mr. Kramer, that needs to be a unanimous vote. No. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, man. Fuck that. A Sundowner subdivision.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, totally believable.
Almost entirely believable.
Yeah.
Jesus. It is a little bit cool that, like, we, as a society, came as far as we did so quickly, but it's really not because progress happened fast, it's that it took forever to get here, and, of course, now people are trying to wind it back.
There was I can't remember the title of it now, it's been like 200 books ago, but there was a book I read last year, it was a history book, but it was like this book that was getting all this praise, I can't remember what it was called, but it was looking at, like, it's one of those books that kind of revolutionizes the way that historians look at the history of civilization. And it really questioned, like, all these bedrocks that we have about how, people gathered together and developed agriculture because it was easier, and then they, created these communities because it was easier and all this shit. And he basically argues that it wasn't easier. The reason they did it is because it granted a small cabal of people absolute power over the rest, which is a very human desire. And the proof is that we've been doing it for fucking centuries, like perfecting it year after year after year. It's like, wow, this is the coolest book I've ever read.
Yeah. Oh man, I feel like I know what book you're talking about. I think it's something like the it's like an orange cover and it's like blah 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 humanity.
Yes, that's it. It's I think it's 9,050 pages or something, but it smokes. It's so good.
Oh fuck yeah. I've had that because as a conscientious consumer that isn't actually like contributing to the horrible downfall of things, I had it listed in my Amazon wish list. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mine's full of weird shit like experimental belts and things that I just stumble across. I'm like, I've been wearing this belt for like 30 years and maybe it's time to get a new belt. And now they have belts that are like tactical belt with a license. Yeah. It's like, what the I just want, but okay. Those are kind of interesting. Yeah. Maybe I want one of those. Yeah. All that shit is
this in my... This belt turns into 500 meters of rappelling rope.
Like, my hair's really long now, so I'm like, I have to put all kinds of shit in it or else it looks like this, and so it's like I'm making a giant afro sign, folks. And, so I have to put, like, bottles full of conditioner in my hair just to get it to control itself for a little bit. And now I've discovered that, now that my hair's longer, in the back where it's the longest, the hair's all dry, and like I could put whatever I want in there, and it's just like it's like a hay bale in the back. And so I'm like on Amazon, like I never thought ever in my life I'd be like best moisturizing conditioner for men's hair. I'm like, I'm that guy now.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be some bee palm oil.
I found some great shit.
So anyway, a movie.
Woo!
J. Woelfel's Beyond Dreams Door. This is the first feature film done at the Ohio State University. The crew of the film, it was a brand new production class, and that's why this happened. So it's a movie done at a university, by a university, for a university.
Some of the movies we cover are just standard movie fare. There's somebody pitches something to a studio and they get funding and blah blah blah. This is one of those movies that has a story behind it. It's like pretty interesting. I mean, a bunch of college students who just basically did a school project on 16 millimeter. It has absolutely no reason to be the quality that it is, but it's remarkably high quality for a 16 millimeter film. It's and then like some of the camera tricks they use and stuff. I mean, they go a little overboard with the sound, but I would rather have like that kind of sound than like a guy walking across, broken glass and you can't hear anything. Like they really went for like the Foley work and everything else. It's quite an effort.
Yeah. You can see that they tried their darndest. It's important to remember that this is, a student production, so like everything that we say, keep that in context. But this is like surprisingly good. I won't say it's good,
right? But
it is surprisingly good for what it is.
Yeah, let's be clear. It's a piece of shit.
Yeah. They put it out there that they were making it. They were like, I don't know, how would you even get people to distribute a film? And it turns out that people are just out there actively reading it. Or in 1989, They were just actively like looking for anything, and they got offers from a bunch of distributors. They ended up going with one, and that one was like, okay, your movie's really cool and stuff, but what if we threw a bunch of tits in there?
That's so great. Jay, open your mind real wide. I'm seeing everything you're throwing down at me, plus tits.
Yeah. Your runtime is a bit short. What if you just shoved in, I'm gonna throw out a random number, 180 seconds of full in-your-face tiny titties?
Oh my god. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I'm not going to complain. It didn't need to be there, but that's all right.
It made sense in a way,
Yeah, it's just his id, I guess, right? Or his subconscious mind?
Yeah. His id go.
Whoa.
I don't know. I don't know the psychology stuff.
I don't
It can go fuck itself. And its mother.
Sure.
Yeah. I also don't get the feeling that this movie actually knew its psychology stuff. It's under the auspices of a psychology professor in class, but I don't think they were working much in tandem with the psychology department at Ohio State University.
No, as much involvement as the university had, that department was busy doing something else.
Yeah. Perhaps conducting a sleep study, I don't know.
Prepping for the Jung Festival? I don't know what they were doing.
Oh my god. I would go to that festival.
It would be so cool.
Oh man, we're just gonna tell a story collectively.
You guys want to go into the collective unconscious ride?
It's funny because if you don't attend the Young Festival, you still in some way have attended the Young Festival.
You get extra credit for not attending and attending the Young Festival.
It's there.
I'm a moron.
Yeah, it's fine. Any other cool trivia bits before we get into the summarization, John?
No, I think that covers it. That was all the cool trivia bits. I will say this movie, and it's unfortunate, but this movie does share some serious overlap with Intersect.
Yeah, it's got some strong similarities to a lot of the things that we've done. I picked it because it was really cool after the suckling and after Phantasm. This felt very on theme. I wanted to watch it after we did Skinamarink, but we didn't, and I don't remember why. But it also has some Hellraiser overlap. It's got a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street overlap.
And it much like Phantasm, it has overt reference to another horror classic, It.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, with the
red balloon and the sewer drain. I was like, where are we going with this? It's so blatant.
it's right there. There's just no clown.
Yeah. Just a giant suckling.
And then also the weird, what the movie with the bear monster, the mutated bear monster.
Prophecy.
Prophecy, yeah. We've
That's
got some of that in here, too.
I did think of Prophecy when we watched this. That's hilarious.
Wow. And then also just a little bit of overlap with the movie that hadn't come out yet, starring Harrison Ford, The Fugitive.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's dive into it. John, why don't you kick us off?
I'm going to kick us off. So, the phone rings. And it's for Ben. Ben is our protagonist and a high-pitched voice douche. He's laughing. Oh, yeah, there's tits. It's a basement. There's hands coming up. It's so arty. It's a montage of artistic devices. That's his dream world, apparently. And then we see calculus, and Ben is sitting down at his desk. He's doing math with some horrible fucking child who's bothering him. Kid's name is Ricky. You assume it's his brother. It kind of is, and it kind of isn't. But anyways, Ricky's badgering him because he wants to play. I want to play hide and seek. And so, that's where I put, I hope the kid dies. But anyways,
yeah.
So they'd play hide and seek. The kid is just horrible. He's just like a little demon spawn, basically. And so anyways, Ben goes to hide, and he hides in the closet. Sorry. And then suddenly he's stuck in the closet. He can't get out. It looks like it has like one of those folding bed things that's like blocking him from getting out. Like the convertible bookshelf that turns into a bed. I forget what those are called. But anyways, yeah, he's stuck in the closet. He can't get out. There's horrible noises. This goopy rubber suckling monster is trying to get at him while that little dick kid just sits there and watches with like this dead face. And then this big monster rubber hand with fingers like swipes, just about to hit him. He wakes up. There's sirens. It's horrifying. And then he cuts to Ben. He's on the world's loudest typewriter, finishing his homework.
Tap, tap, tap.
Oh my God.
Tap,
I had to turn the volume down. It was just like ringing through my brain. Like, I get it. He's on a typewriter. Jesus.
He's going at about 5 words per minute, too.
Oh, Lord. So he whips that out, crams it in his bag, which really bothered me, too. Like, dude, do you not know how to put paper in a bag? And then leaves the house, and he's off to school with his little backpack. He's going to college. I know he is literally a college student, but he looks like he's 50. And he just looks so weird with that backpack on his shoulder. I don't know. I'm still in college, and I'm 55, so what the fuck am I talking about? Anyways, there's more sirens, and he kind of as I had mentioned. He sees a sewer drain that just draws his attention in. He walks towards it, and that's all we get. Then we're at the university, and we are introduced to the teacher's assistant, the psych department's teacher assistant, Eric Baxter, who is chatting up some girl with excessively curly hair. And they're talking psych. Here's a new TA. Like just a bunch of bullshit. Doesn't matter. This new student comes in who's like an old man, and he's completely douchey, and he's all stressed because he needs to see his test grades because he needs to prove to some board that he's loan worthy, that he can maintain or keep his grades up high enough to maintain this loan. And he's completely stressed out about it. He starts digging through the tests. He finds his test. He's got an F. He pulls a revolver out of his pocket and sticks the barrel into his eye socket, while the teacher's assistant is just like, no, don't do that. That would be bad. I was like, why is this guy... Okay, all right. And then he's just about to pull the trigger, and then it's a big joke. It's a psychological test.
Hilarious.
Oh, man, good one. Eric is clearly not impressed, of course, because what the fuck? And it turns out that this guy is the professor, this Professor Knox. We cut back to Ben. He's at school. He gets his test grade, which is an A-. Hey, pretty good.
Yeah.
Knox is teaching the class this bullshit about psychosis and the story of a guy who has increasingly violent dreams, which seems to kind of trigger Ben, who is now having a waking nightmare with lots of exploding light bulbs, and what we see is basically a giant skinless toxic fetus parents, like suckling parents in bed with the sheets over them, and it's a whole thing. He's freaked out.
It's a very thing.
It's so thing. And then he sees that on his notepad or whatever for class, he's written, "Beyond Dream's door is where horror lies." Okay. While Knox is, jabbering away, he's talking about this guy that had this, it's like Mr. White or something, that had these horrible dreams, and that these dreams summoned a demon from his nightmares, or at least that's what the guy believes, and it turned him into some sort of like catatonic dickwad. And this is all like resonating with Ben, who after class approaches Knox and says, hey, I wrote this dream down that I had, and I want you to read it, because if there's anything in the world that's fascinating, it's someone else's dreams. So,
oh man.
So he hands this off to Knox, and great. And we cut to Ben again. He's now in the school sleep lab with Julie, the curly-haired girl. And then we see, it just cuts to his dream, I guess, already, and he sees, like, the red it balloon. It's floats up into the sky like it slipped out of his hand, but poor little Ben as a child is so very sad because he lost his balloon. Then she locks the doors, turns the light out, so, like, all that shit happened before he even started the study. It makes no sense. She gives him this purple sleeping pill. He takes the pill, immediately falls asleep, and then there's more light bulbs explosions, and another naked lady, and she's like, "Hey, why don't you come to bed?" And so her voice, and then she's like, "Yeah, come to bed," like demon voice. Ben's back in the closet, apparently. I don't know why, because the monster attacks him again and smashes the door. And then we cut to Ben. He's in his own bed now. I guess the sleep study is over. Knox calls. He wants Ben to come over right away. It's like in the middle of the fucking night. And he wants him to come over right away so they can talk about his dream. While Ben's on his way, Knox sees the little demon spawn Ricky at the top of the stairs in his 1970s perfectly preserved house with shag carpet and weird multi-levels. And Ricky scares Knox, who pulls his gun out, which he keeps in his pocket at all times, even at home. And then the kid just vanishes. Okay. And then Ben arrives, and they talk a bunch of dream bullshit about chains of dreams that come one after the other, and all this bullshit. It's just a bunch of psychobabble nonsense. Ben explains how, like, and we're seeing it as he's explaining it, how this bug-eyed version of Ricky, which looks like half ping-pong balls, like silly putty to his face, those for eyes, stabs Ben through the wrist with, like, this giant thing. I don't know what the fuck that was supposed to be.
It was just a piece of, like, sharp wood.
Yeah, like just right through his wrist. And now these guys are both fucked because they have so much work to do. Whatever.
Right.
Now we're
got to get to work on this dream shit.
Yeah. Cut to basically like a basement library that has, I don't know, it was look like a basement library basically. I guess it's some library at the school at Ohio State, and they're discussing this guy named White, who the professor had been referring to earlier in the class lecture, who apparently had, and this is the big line. This is supposed to scare you. He stops and turns as he's on his way out. He had the same dream 20 years ago. So lame.
And just to paint a picture for you here, Professor Knox has... Everyone else, they did a pretty good job, but Professor Knox is where you can really see that whoever they hired to do the makeup department wasn't 100% sure what to do with this guy, because shit is just clumping off of his face the whole time. He looks terrible, which is why this next part of what happens in the movie is so satisfying. So then this guy, White, appears and explains his dreams to Ben. He's like, oh yeah, I forgot all of my dreams, and so all of this stuff was a punishment for forgetting my dreams. And he says, it kills everyone I ask for help and leaves me there to walk through the blood. Great.
Wonderful.
The pink monster catches up to Professor Knox, who went to do a thing, and chomps him almost to death. White explains that it takes the victims and hides them in the nightmares, and that if enough people knew, someone could probably stop this from happening.
Right.
Just then, a mutilated Professor Knox squishy blood crawls up to Ben to bring him the book, and just then the pink bear beast appears out of nowhere and squeezes Professor Knox's head to death. It looks pretty good.
That was a cool effect. I agree.
Yeah. The practical effects in this movie are great job.
Yeah.
Like y'all, it's low budget, but y'all did it,
right.
and I'm glad for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now the annoying humming balloon. That's right. The balloon is going. It appears around Julie and leads her upstairs before escaping into an attic for no good reason. Then Julie is like, okay, whatever, and she goes to review the tapes of Ben's sleep experiment. Then the balloon reappears, and she hears the pink monster outside. When she turns around and the balloon is there, she reaches for the string, and the balloon pops and sprays blood everywhere. Then from outside, we can hear the pink monster laughing from inside the sewers. Not like some sort of clown or giant spider or anything like that.
No. Damn you for thinking that.
How dare. Ben finds the book with some of the pages ripped out. Then we see a janitor with 2 prosthetic hooks for hands. Mops up some blood that had just been left in the library. Ben goes to talk to Eric since the professor never showed up to school that day. Ben describes a warehouse to Eric. Eric is like, oh yeah, I know that place, and takes him there. It's an actual warehouse that he's been dreaming. He's like, oh, you know how deja vu works in a movie. Then while they're there, Eric spots something on the ground. He picks it up and puts it in his pocket. It turns out it's bear claws. Ben inspects the cement trap doors, which why wouldn't you have giant cement trapdoors that can only be opened with chains?
And a massive pulley.
Yeah, the great crane system? I don't know. Anyway, Julie calls Eric and asks him to come to the lab. She mentions that last night she had weird dreams about a balloon. While this is going on, Ben finds a page from the book in a pile of dirt with rocks arranged around it that say Demon's Weight. Good.
Yeah. Wonderful.
And then, as he's looking at these cool rocks, the page flies away and he chases it through the air. It leads Ben to a tunnel. He then was about to pick up, he had a wallet that he found on the ground. His wallet, someone grabs it out of his hand. He chases that person into the tunnels. Turns out it's a future himself with a cool scar on his face. And he tells him, don't lose that piece of paper in your pocket, and he says that forgotten dreams that are rotting and going insane are after him. At this point, the pink monster bear and the tits girl chase him out of the tunnels. Then Julie shows Eric a video of Ben having nightmares and saying, I can't feel anything! I can't feel anything! To this, Eric says, I'm gonna go get a drink of water. While he's drinking from a water fountain, paper airplanes assail him, and he, dotted line E.T., Reese's Pieces his way with a line of paper airplanes all the way up to the hook-handed janitor who is mopping up water, and he's like, where's this water coming from? The janitor's like, it's raining, and he's like, it hasn't rained in a long time, and then the janitor's hook hands fall off, and he's scared, and Eric runs away.
It's so weird. It's like, what? What just happened?
And why? And we will never know. Nope. It's just all very visual.
Yeah.
At this point, everything in the building gets spooky, and Eric and Julie run away. They get outside, and she's like, "Where's your car?" And he's like, "It's not close enough, wherever it is."
Not close enough. So they go to her car instead. Great. They kiss, and it's like, okay, wait, what? Julie kisses Eric, and right up until that moment, I thought it was like some sort of paternal teacher, assistant or assistant and assistant's assistant, mutual respect type. No, they're fucking. So,
yeah,
which I should have known, but he's such a fucking dweeb, and there's no chemistry between the two at all. They don't even write any in. So all of a sudden it's like if someone just starts making out with their dad out of nowhere and no one says anything about it. It's like, okay, sure. No, use tongue. That's fine. And then...
she's like an adorable 1989 college student, and he looks like he's a beige slacks dad guy, and then now they're shoving tongue, and it's like, no, please don't.
And then she leaves. She takes off. They split. Or she split, whatever, who cares? At home, she parks in her garage, and she finds a little note that her folks are over at Grandma's until tomorrow. And she's like, I get to have a house to myself when I don't want it. And then the car door opens itself, and the rubber suckling is in the back of the car, back behind the back seat. Great. Meanwhile, Eric is now reading up on animal behavior because he's a psychology teaching assistant, and he drops the bear accoutrement, the claw, and I think there's a tooth in there too, but anyways.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, which made me think, you know what? Somebody that made this movie, or that was part of this movie, had that shit, like their great uncle hunted bear or some shit, and they were like, these look creepy, you want to use these in the movie? So,
I love that he smells them too. He's looking at them like, I think this is from a bear, and then he gives them a good old snifferoo.
It's so, I love how obtrusive he is when he picks them up in the cement dungeon, whatever that room is. And then later he's got the tea, so he drops them by accident no, he doesn't. He drops them on purpose into a jar. Great. Hey, by accident, idiot. Okay, so Ben is back. He's dreaming again. That's Ben. He's kissing tits. He's, he's having a great time. She tells him that he's next. We cut to Ben, who is now chasing some guy across an abandoned, building, a whole area with, an abandoned building, and, it's overgrown and all this shit. And, that area that kids play in neighborhoods when you're growing up that no one else goes to. One of those kind of areas. So he chases a guy. He ends up into some yard full of, zombies, like Walking Dead type people in white face, I guess you would call them. They look like Buto dancers or something. Anyways, so Ben follows Eric upstairs. There's more zombies just wandering around inside the house. It makes no sense. It's just dream shit, I guess. Down into the basement, full of zombies. Excuse me. What? And then, it's weird. And then Eric warns Ben. He finally catches up to him. Eric warns Ben, and then melts-ish in a shower that pops up. I was just like, what is I think this was the point where I was like, you know what? I'm done with the dream shit. Like, this makes no... I know dreams don't make any fucking sense, and we try really hard to attach meaning to them because it's like an alternate reality for us. I get it. But in this movie, it's just a bunch of horse shit is what it is. It's just a bunch of fucking horse shit. So Ben gets all poetic all of a sudden. He's like rifling off this dream bullshit. We see demons, and we hear his little whiny fucking voice reciting this poem thing. It's horrible. This is the low point for me. Then we get more arty, kind of like trying to be arty, trippy camera work. Like, we're getting A's. It's that kind of stuff. So then we cut to Eric. Now he's looking at ceiling art bells. I don't know. It's like an art bell chandelier. I don't know what the fuck it is. It's all jingly, and he's looking at it. It's like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. He gets some water. Jar fills with blood. Okay. Yeah. That's, I believe, the tooth jar? Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, bear tooth jar.
Yeah, bear tooth jar fills with blood. Eric sees Julie show up. She shows up in a lovely white dress. It was very nice. And then suddenly the creature, not the teacher, the creature shows up and fucks Julie up. Rips her fucking head off.
Yep.
Eric is a little bit upset. He's calling for Julie. I don't know what's going on. He calls for Julie. No one's home. White dress Julie, who was just beheaded, visits Ben in his little wee child bed. And another movie where like a full-ass adult, full-grown adult man lives in a child's room. Jesus, that's like a real common thread in these movies. She's knocking at the door, trying to get help. It's Julie, she's begging him to help her. It's all a bunch of shit to try to lure him in. More arty camera work, and then Ben parks his car at Julie's place. I have no idea what the fuck's going on. Like, things are overlapping that don't make any sense, and it's not done in like a cool, trippy way. It's just a series of disconnected bullshit. The movie's pretty much out of control at this point. He goes to her room. He sees Eric outside, who says "too late," I guess. I don't know. I just was writing shit down because I don't know what the fuck's going on at this point.
Yeah.
Her head is in the yard. Okay, so there you go. They leave together, and then Demon Julie comes out to lure them back, and dumb fuck tries to get out of there, Eric, but Ben stops him. Like, out of nowhere, Eric's just like, "Oh, I gotta go." And I'm done. And then Ben's like, "No, you bitch," like, we got the rest of the movie to make. So, back at Ben's place, the demon is waiting for them. So they go back to Eric's place. Because, demons at Ben's place. The door's open, and Eric goes, "That's weird. I don't remember leaving the door open." Why the fuck would you leave the door open? Of course you don't remember leaving the door open, you twat. I love that kind of shit in movies where no one says, "Hey, wait a minute, why the fuck would he leave the door open?" It makes no sense. Of course he doesn't remember it, because if he's even semi-normal, he closed a fucking door. Okay, anyways. So, the bleeding tooth jar is broken. The teeth are gone, the claws, teeth, whatever. And then he says, is it Eric? He says, "It's covering itself. Nothing can be left to show it exists." This is like the big conceit to tie the movie in, that there's all the signs of this thing existing outside of Ben's fevered, diseased dream world. This thing's trying to get rid of them so that it can stay in our reality, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell's going on. But
Yeah.
Ben has some great idea that he's going to trick it back to where it came from, the hinged door in the basement, with the remaining pages or page or whatever that he's got from that stupid fucking magic dream book. And then Eric is just like, I'm scared. Like he doesn't want to help, so it's basically on Ben. And like what the fuck? Eric doesn't even need to be in this movie. He's completely extraneous.
Yeah, he's useless.
Yeah, Ben gets all brave, sets off to go to the cement room. He gets there, he MacGyvers this like rope and chain pulley contraption into the hinges in the trapdoors, like the floor hatch. The ropes break. We hear the demon growling, and then the handless custodian shows up, and he's all like, I'm tough. But then Ben tries to convince him to help. Why?
I don't know.
He's been nothing but evil. He's been evil the whole movie. Why would you be like, I know you're evil, but could you just help me out here?
Yeah. Custode over here, please.
And then the custode turns into like the creature, I guess.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Eric, who he went home and took a shower. So I mean, he needed a shower, which I understand. We've already discussed this. Yeah. It's hot. We see a drain with the manhole cover moved aside, and it's all dark in there. He sees that, freaks the fuck out, and then he's now fully dressed, and he's heading back to Julie's place, and we get this weird like couple of Wes Anderson style shots where he's like walking on a top of a hill with backlit with the sun, and there's no depth in the image. It's very Wes Anderson-y.
Tilda Swinton's there. It's great.
Yeah, it's like there's a guy with like a top hat and like this. I'm like, what is this? And then he gets back to Julie's place. Why did he go back to Julie's place? Because he forgot his fucking car.
Yeah.
Somehow he made it all the way home, but forgot his car.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's having issues. Like, he doesn't remember closing his door. He doesn't remember leaving his car at Julie's house and walking home.
Yeah.
So he goes back, walks through a Wes Anderson set to get his car. Julie's old lady mother runs out to the car, and she's got her grandmother or whatever the fuck she is. She's got like the grandma apron, and she's all, hey, oh, hello, Eric, you should come in. I won't take no for an answer. And Julie's inside. So it's so stupid because he knows it's bullshit. He knows that this is like a manifestation of the demon. But his logic is, which of course we have to hear, is that it's safe because the sun's out.
Yeah, from nowhere he's like, oh, well, the sun is out.
Yeah. So what could possibly happen? They go into the house and she's like, I'm going to go make lemonade. And he goes downstairs because in Ohio you have basements. Yeah. And that's where Julie's room is. So he goes downstairs to see Julie. At her door, you hear his voice, Julie, I was so worried.
And then he opens the door to her room. It's bathed in sunlight, just on a pine box casket, and he's like, oh no. And then you hear a sound from outside, and he goes to the door on the opposite side of the hallway from Julie's room, opens that door, there's another casket, but this one opens up, and the pink bear demon monster comes out of it. I don't know why they needed two caskets, but okay. And then Eric sees Julie's mutilated corpse, which looks spectacular. Like, they did again, really good job on that. His mom, her mom is like, yeah, thanks. And you see her, she's like washing her hands on her apron, but it's all just like covered in blood and horribleness. Outside now, Julie is in his car. She tells him he's dead. He just doesn't know it yet. He runs. He comes across the book, that one. And the book starts whispering to him. And so he kicks the book, but then it turns into a really fucking kind of awesome, I want to say, like Ash versus the Evil Dead style, toothy flesh book that chomps down on his foot and is like trying to eat him, while all of a sudden now Julie reappears at the top of the steps and he reaches out to her for help and she's like, and so then he climbs up the porch slowly and slams the front door on the book over and over again until it finally lets go. We're treated to him washing his woundy foot in a tub.
The water turns into pure blood, by the way, which I love. It's like, how much blood is coming out of his foot?
Later, Ben hovers outside. It's nighttime now. That was all during the daytime. Now it's nighttime. Ben is doing a Dracula float up in his kitchen sink window, telling him whatever, and he's
for
like,
no reason.
Yeah, for no reason. He's like, oh yeah, it's fine. And then, he's asking for help, that's right. And then all of a sudden, Monster Julie is there. Oh, that's right, because Eric tried to go to sleep. It's very confusing, I'm sorry. So he tries to go to sleep, and now Monster Julie is there. She's threatening him with a knife while the bear is breaking through his door actively. All of a sudden, now, Monster Julie is Ben, and Ben is telling Eric that he's safe for the moment. So now it's time to go down into the tube sewers, which you might think by that I mean sewers that are tubes. Oh no, it's sewers full of tubes.
It's very tubey.
Yeah. So they're down there. He's like, yeah, I've been hiding down here for days. And it turns out that the reason they've gone down there is he's left 2 lengths of chain down there that they need to retrieve. Then they split up because it would be hard for Eric to get somewhere with his foot all chewed up.
Oh, by the way, I love, if I remember correctly, doesn't Ben take the little piece of chain, and for Eric, with the fucked up foot, he gives him the, like, 180-pound, football field length chain?
Yes, yeah. So the guy who just got his foot gnawed off is now going to be carrying the CrossFit chain while our dream boy Ben deals with the little thing that you would use to keep your gate closed.
CrossFit chain.
But before that can happen, they have to split up because Eric's foot won't let him navigate the tubes. So they split up, and then a not real Ben shows up and lures Eric away toward the bear, but then that bad Ben is gone, and then the real Ben is there, and they both escape the tunnels together, and it's like that didn't happen. Then they break into the university. A lot of time is spent talking about how you can climb this tree to get on an awning, to get in through a window, to get into the building when it's locked, and everyone knows about it. So they just do that and didn't need to have talked about it the whole time. But the reason that this is happening is because Eric's keys don't work because they're his keys. So they won't unlock the doors, so then they have to go in and get Julie's keys, and because they're not Eric's keys, that means that they'll work because of a dream logic thing?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And of course, while all of this is going on, Ben is carrying the 5 pounds of Wii chains, while Eric is limping around with 200 pounds of 18-wheeler towing chain capacity.
Wii chains? That's my rapper name, by the way.
Oh, nice! I like that. They finally get the chains to the concrete doors, start hooking them up, and start hoisting the doors up. Earlier, he shoved the fucking thing in there. I don't know. And at this point, Eric's like, wait, before we go through with the plan, what if you gave me some exposition? And so Ben explains that when he was 9 years old and his parents were dead, he thought he was the only person who knew his name, and because of this, he didn't have time for dreams. And I'm not skimping on any details there. That is the full extent of that moment. And then Eric's like, oh, okay, great. Let's just continue hoisting the giant, horrible doors. And then at this point, the pink demon bear comes out of nowhere and chomps Eric as the trapdoor is open. And then bowling ball rolls Eric's head towards Ben just to frighten him. Now...
It's so bad.
It is. It's not one of the more impressive effects. And then the bear starts menacing towards Ben, and now Ben is treated to a recap of every scary thing from the movie. Love this in a good movie. A nice recap of all the things that we were proud of.
Oh my god.
He then gets down where the doors would be blocking, and the bear comes in there with him, and he hits the button, and now the big concrete doors close on top of him and the bear and the little piece of paper are all underneath those doors. Movie over.
Yeah, what the... I mean, for the amount of time that this movie spent padding itself so that it could make it up to 80 minutes runtime, that they wasted... They just got right to the point at the end, which made no fucking sense. Like, They obviously had way too many ideas. They tried to put too much stuff into this movie. Then they realized that even with all that useless shit that made no sense, the movie was probably still like 12 minutes long. And so they had to, they did all this weird shit like shoehorn a short movie in that was a totally different movie for like the VHS release of this, apparently. And then they took that out and all. I was like, what? But then you get to the ending and it just ends. It's like, What?
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's so bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think they were going for dream logic, and there are three reasons that they were going for dream logic. One, they were going for dream logic because wouldn't that be cool if we could do a movie like that? Yeah. Two, we're going for dream logic because that sounds easier to make a movie about. Because then we won't have to worry about some things. And then three, because I guess the guy whoever they got to edit the movie also they knew probably wouldn't be good, and this is what we get from that.
Some slapdash editing.
Yeah. It's not good, but it's kind of good at parts. Like yep. It sucks. The acting is terrible. There are only two actors with any on-screen charisma. It's the two TAs, but they don't have any chemistry together. They both can deliver a line believably, which is more than the rest of this movie has going for it. But they just suck so much together, and so much of their thing is that they're he's hitting on her constantly and then kissing.
It feels very forced and unnatural. Like somebody just told them, now do this and make it look like you're into it or whatever. Yeah, it's weird because this obviously this movie, as we had said, was made, not obviously, but the movie was made as a school project. As a school project, it's a radical success. But then someone along the way was like, wow, man, this movie needs a wide release. And so they pitched it and somebody bought it. Somebody was into it and willing to pay money to have this be an actual release. So when you think about it like that, there's a lot of exuberance that maybe went into making it. The film is not particularly exciting, they're trying maybe too hard to act and, but I mean, those are all just rookie mistakes that people who have never done it before are going to make. And if you consider that they literally just made it so that it could be seen in class, and they probably had fantasized about, would it be funny if people actually saw this or whatever? Well, it turned into that. It's like one of those 1 in a million situations where white people, who usually don't get anything to go their way in life, make a shitty movie and it gets a broad national release. I mean, it's so rare that... Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is really rare. I mean, how many stories do you read about, some filmmaker who put their heart and soul into something that finally gets like a cult following maybe after 30 years, and it's fucking brilliant, and nobody would bite, you know? And then these guys come along and they're like, dream logic? And then the dude's like, oh man, I don't think I have enough money to give you to put this out. Just throw some tits in and you can have it all.
I mean, it is impressive for what it is. It's just, it's so hard. They tried real hard though, and I want to applaud them. Like, the dream logic thing, it doesn't work. I don't feel like they achieved what they were going for, but it's a really cool try.
Yeah, considering what they had to work with, you know, again, I mean, they're just a bunch of white people going to one of the nicer universities in the country. I mean, you know, to be able to try to marshal resources like, you know, full-on video and sound and editing and all those things that they just had right at their fingertips, that had to be tough. Yeah. And so, no, I mean, you know, how many people have made a student film and it was, you know, they should have been murdered for it? Like, this movie is head and shoulders above all that, and I'm glad that it got released, because it is a lot of fun. I mean, it's not great, you know. Yeah. And it's got some real issues that we've covered, but it was still fun, and you know, I liked a lot of it. There was just a lot of stuff that maybe if it was like a hour long, you know, if it was that might have made it better if they just cut out a lot of the bullshit. You know, or had some explanation for, I don't know, like, you know, like have some sort of weird subconscious connection to a bear. Yeah. I mean, why a bear? They don't explain it at all. It's just a skinless bear. Okay.
There's just a skinless bear that, and there's just a titty lady. There's a janitor with 2 hook hands that come off. And sometimes it's raining.
Yeah, and there's a lot of exploding light bulbs because they really like the way those look.
Ooh, that was so cool.
But you know, I mean, again, it's I don't know, I can't hate a movie like this, but you know, because it's not offensive. If it was, you know, like if the whole premise of the movie is that, you know, we need to kill all the Jews or something, it'd be like, okay, this is awful. Nobody should watch this. You know. There's no redeeming value, but there's nothing horrible like that in it. It's just not a great movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
it's quite an analogy.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Where are you going with that one, John?
Woo! Dig a hole, jump right in.
All right. So I was a little bit, I'll say a little bit generous with this movie. I like the practical effects. I like what they tried to do with it. And I like the way that it fits into the other movies we've been watching. So I was a little generous. I gave it a 2.8 out of 5 Loathsome Things.
That's, of course, it's a 1/10 of a point within my score. I would say the exact same thing. I was a little bit generous, although in some categories I went pretty low, but I came up with a 2.9.
Nice.
And I don't even think it deserves a 2.9. Like, gut reaction, I would say like 2.4, 2.5. Yeah. But I have my little criteria that I have to have, and so, you know, I mean, it hits on some levels, you know, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was a fun movie.
Yeah. It like Skinamarink achieved things that this movie failed to achieve, but you can also see like possibly how this movie was a building block that later things, you know, built off of. More successful movies with dream logic that are also shitty. Maybe those directors saw this.
Did Jay Woelfel go on to make anything else? Or did he have a career in film?
He had a pretty shitty looking career in film, including... So I mentioned that sometimes I get Scanners and Phantasm mixed up, and there's a third movie that I get mixed up, movie franchise, that I get mixed up, and that is the Trancers movie franchise.
Yes.
Yeah, Jay Woelfel went on to direct Trancers 6.
Wow. Whew. Wow, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, way to go, Jay.
Yeah, Trancers, that franchise that I don't know what it's about.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any of the 1 through 6 or more Trancers.
Yeah, but they're definitely available on some of the shittiest streaming services that you can get for free.
Oh, yeah.
So, John, other than this movie, what have you been watching or enjoying or consuming that has tickled your fancy?
Well, I went ahead after all that talk about Shudder and broke down and got Shudder again.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to see that Mexican film Huesera, the Bone Lady or Bone Woman, I think. So I did. I watched that, and I enjoyed it. The scary parts are very disturbing, but it's really the whole overall idea is more about the maternal fear of childbirth, and the fears that are kind of wrapped up in the experience or the process of childbirth for women, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But it was less a horror film. It was just kind of, you could say it was expressed through the lens of horror.
Yeah.
And done very well, but most of the film wasn't really about that. It was more about, these other, like this woman's concerns and her anxieties about her child coming into the world, and does she even want a child? Is she suitable? Because that was never her. She's chosen to have a kid because she just thinks that that's what she's supposed to do. She's got her husband and all that stuff. That's all great. I love all that. And it was a good movie. I wish it was more horror movie-ish. But, who's going to claim a movie like that horror? So,
yeah.
So, hey, great. I'm glad they did. It's got some extremely disturbing scenes in it. So, yeah, it was worth a watch. I watched the remake of Children of the Corn.
Oh, how is that? It looks so bad. I haven't watched it.
Yes, it's bad. But
the original was bad too, but
the original's really bad. I don't know if I like it more because now the original has that period feel, that cheesy throwback thing that's kind of fun. But
yeah,
this movie has better production values. The girl that plays the little evil boy in the other movie, she's great. She's really, really funny, actually. And the gore effects in this movie are fantastic.
Ooh.
The creature is terrible, and the movie itself is, it's Children of the Corn plus some added stupid shit about, like environment and stuff, which is just should not be there.
Outlander!
But it's worth it it's definitely worth it for the effects. The gore is great. So it was all right. And then I was, scrolling through the Shudder stuff, and they had this movie there called The Boogeyman, which I'd heard of before, but I didn't know anything about it. And the picture that they had to accompany it was like this. It looks like a night vision thing, like a green lens. And there's a woman coming through a doorway, and her eyes are kind of glowing with that like starlight effect. And it looked really cool. So I was like, well, that's a terrible title, but that picture's cool. Oh, Uli Lomel made it, who in my mind is, like the go-to guy to make the worst movies ever. He's notorious for making shitty movies. And so I started reading about it, and it turns out that this film is like a cult classic and was like the beginning of his horror career and the high point of it, apparently. And I watched it, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. And I found out that dude is, well, anyways. So then they had another one of his movies called The Devonsville Terror. I watched that one, too. That was great. I don't know. What about you? What'd you watch?
So I also watched some horror adjacent films. Three relatively new, like brand new to relatively new horror adjacent films. Out of the three, so one was Renfield.
Mm-hmm.
One was The Northman.
Oh.
And then the third one was the most horrific of the three, which I find very amusing. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Really?
I was not expecting it to be like an entire body horror nightmare, but it is tremendous. Like,
wow.
It was fucking awesome. Yeah, like there's a space station that's made out of flesh, and there are like guards that are wearing like weird pulsating flesh bulge armor, and
nice.
like it's about mutilated animals, like, trying to escape, and they've got, like, horrible half-mechanized bodies, and it's fucking awesome. Now, I did enjoy Renfield, somewhat, some elements of it, and I also enjoyed The Northman. It was really fucking good. But out of the three, I was not expecting Guardians of the Galaxy to be the most horror-y, and it turned out to be.
Oh, that's wild. I haven't seen it yet, but I definitely intend to see it. Especially now, that's crazy. I would have never guessed that in a million years.
Yeah.
Is Gunn involved in that one as well? Is that?
Yeah, James Gunn's all up in there. And it got the first F-bomb in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh, kudos for catching up to centuries of humanity.
Yes. And then I also, for the first time, well, not for the first time starting it, but for the first time ever finishing it, I watched the movie Phenomena, Dario Argento and Jennifer Connelly. Yes. I started the movie so many times, but then every single time I get to the point where Donald Pleasance has a chimp, and I'm like, oh, I'm out. I'm done with this movie. And so this time I stuck through to the end, and wow, what a great end of a movie.
Yeah, it's definitely not Argento's best.
No.
But that's only because his best is among the best, but it's still great. That movie's a lot of fun, Phenomena.
Yeah. I still hate the whole chimpanzee element of that movie.
Yes.
Like, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with the guy. He was obviously losing his edge or something. But other than that, the like final 20 minutes of that movie just totally kick ass, but also a chimpanzee is there.
Yeah, it's like the best and worst of Italian cinema wrapped up in one movie.
Yeah. One big boogus of a movie. All right, so that's been our weeks. In 2 weeks, we're coming out with a new episode. John, what is that episode going to be covering?
The Devonsville Terror by Uli Lomal. Nips be poppin'. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's, I don't remember if it was even mentioned in that Dark Deviling Days of the Dark documentary about folk horror. I can't imagine it wasn't, since that movie was like 12 hours long, but I really don't remember that movie being mentioned in there. Maybe it was, but anyways, it certainly fits in that perfectly, in that little niche. It has this straight, like, clarity to it that's like almost like made for TV kind of, but then it has these moments that just kick you right in the nards, and I think it's going to be a fun movie to talk about, because there's some interesting things going on there that have really never been handled that well in any other movie of any genre, oddly enough. And I was really impressed by that. So, yeah, I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah. On your recommendation, I watched it, and I've got to say, among all of the things, it's got the single most standout impressive spit scene I've ever seen in my life. Like, they do a thing with spit where I was like, oh shit, wow.
Whoa.
Art.
Way to go, Uli.
Yeah, Uli's, if you look at his directing career, he, in addition to directing like the sequels to The Boogeyman, he also has a lot of movies about Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun and stuff. He's like, oh, what? We've watched the Adolf. What if Adolf had a summer?
He's definitely the kind of guy that is just capitalizing on something. But he, either by accident or, early on in his career, still had some purity. Whatever the reason, he made at least a couple good ones, and then went on to just be like, oh, yeah, people like this, we make movie for that one.
Oh,
and, yeah. Just made a bunch of those.
He went on, like, 2005 was a kick of his real killer movies. So, in 2005, he directed Uli Lomel's Zodiac Killer, BTK Killer, Green River Killer, Black Dahlia, and Killer Picton.
I tried to watch Black Dahlia, and it was fucking terrible. And I was thinking about watching The Zodiac Killer, and I read something about it, and I was like, nope, that's not happening.
No,
and that was it. Like, and I can't even imagine how he covers Robert Picton. Picton.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, that story is, man, that's a rough story right there.
Yeah. He's got some early work that looks interesting. Tenderness of the Wolves looks interesting. Then there's also a movie called Osgereknet Banananen.
Whoa. What the hell?
I don't know.
He used to act in Wim Wenders films.
Wim Wenders films?
Yeah, which, I don't know, are you familiar with Wim Wenders? But
no, but I like it. I like the way it sounds.
He's a, you know, like, he's a German, like, auteur style director, like Fassbinder, you know, or Herzog, or he's part of that generation. And he made Wings of Desire. He made Paris, Texas.
Oh, wow.
Those were his famous movies. But Lommel acted in some of his movies. Apparently, they collaborated together on stuff. And Lommel even, I forget. We'll talk about it in the next episode. But yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, he's got more acting credits than he has directing credits.
Yeah. He was very active, right up pretty much up until he died. I guess a couple years ago. I don't know. Yeah. Bye.
All right, so get your ass back here in 2 weeks, and be prepared to hear the word feminism just kind of bandied about for our next episode.
Yeah, if you don't like wokeism, then you're gonna hate this episode.
Yes. Yeah. So go out there, believe women, Black Lives Matter, and if you are getting angry, go ahead and unsubscribe.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that you all have to fight the power.
That's good.